A Halifax-based music duo say they were shaken after being interrogated by police in the U.S. Midwest earlier this month. Sisters Cassie and Maggie MacDonald of the group Cassie and Maggie were driving in Ohio when officers pulled them over. We're joined now by Cassie and Maggie MacDonald from Alberta, where they're currently touring. So take us back to that day when you're in the car. When did you notice something was off?
Well, we were, pulled over for distracted driving, and we don't deny that that was the initial reason for sure. We were speaking with our mother, and the Bluetooth was malfunctioning somewhat, so we had the cell phone in our hand. Maggie was driving, so we were passing it back and forth in an attempt to have a clearer conversation with our mother. And we did notice Maggie was the first to notice a cruiser tailing us for about a half an hour, and we thought that was odd, so she was being very, very, very careful not to speed 1 single kilometer over the limit. And then we noticed we were going to pass. We noticed another cruiser waiting on the side of the highway. And so when we passed him, he pulled out and then began following us as well. So we were followed by 2 cruisers. And as soon as he pulled out the second car, the lights came on and we immediately pulled to the side of the highway.
And what did they say when they got to your window?
So they both came out. The first officer came to my side, the passenger window, and Maggie had the second officer come to her window. So we presented them with all of our documents, the rental car agreement, which is sort of the most important. We wanted to let them know that this was not our vehicle. We were driving a rental car as touring musicians. And so they immediately got Maggie out of the car, which was sort of out of the norm for what we would expect a normal traffic stop to proceed to start with. So we were separated right away from the beginning, and Maggie was put into the first cruiser. And from there, our experience kind of went on 2 different paths, but following a very similar script, I would say.
Well, Maggie, what was going through your mind during all of this?
Oh, well, it was the first time I was ever actually removed from the vehicle, and he said, get out of the car and I'll tell you why we've stopped you. And so I was told out of the car that it was for distracted driving, and I admitted to it immediately. He said, I saw that you were on your phone. And so then he said, get in the cruiser and I've got a few questions for you. So for the next about 40 minutes, we were stopped and asked all questions for where we entered and where we were on our touring, which was complicated answers because we were in a different spot every day. And so, all the questions seemed okay, but they took the drug dog around the car, and that was when Cassie was removed from the vehicle. I guess there was a positive result on the rental vehicle, and then that was the thing that sort of put me a little bit concerned when I saw that Cassie, who was the passenger, was removed from the vehicle.
So, Cassie, what did they say to you about drugs?
So they proceeded to take apart the car and look through all of our belongings and gear and bags and instruments. And of course, they didn't find anything, but this whole ordeal was really, we were watching from 2 separate cars being separated, not able to communicate with each other. And we also didn't know our rights, what we were entitled, for protections as Canadians, or, it's just something you never expect to deal with. So after the search was complete, he came back to the car and spoke to me again. And essentially what proceeded from that was what I would consider a bit of a lecture about the amount of fentanyl that's coming through the Canadian border into America. And he said, there's a lot of fentanyl coming in from Canada right now. And it wasn't really a question, it was more of a statement that he sort of let linger. So I wasn't sure how to answer that based on my limited knowledge. I'm not familiar that is really an issue. If there is any coming through, it's a pretty nominal amount. So he seemed quite concerned with that connection, us being Canadians and the fentanyl issue.
And I understand you were also asked if you preferred Canada or America. What did you make of that question?
We're asked this question all the time. We've been touring in the States for over a decade, and we've built an incredible fan base there that are so supportive and have been with us from the very start. So we get that type of question, about Canada. Tell us about Canada. I've always wanted to visit. I have family there. Where should we go? What time of year is best? And I was looking for any indication that might be behind the question, a kind of a benevolent desire to understand a bit more about our country. But I have to be honest, it didn't feel that way at all. It felt very much like I could say something wrong that would turn this interaction in a different direction when it had, reached a natural conclusion. Like there was one more element, one more hurdle to get over before we were going to be able to let go. And it seemed that that question was had a lot of weight to it.
Right.
Yeah,
And
and
we
were
did
both.
hear from the sheriff's office, and their response was it was just, do you prefer touring in the US or Canada? But you heard it differently.
Yeah, and they each individually asked us individually before releasing us separately. So that the fact that each officer asked us that question in their own words, my officer asked which is better, and we both answered with touring in mind because that was top of mind. And I said, well, I certainly didn't feel like saying Canada would have been the answer that they were looking for anyway.
All right. Will you still tour in the US?
I don't know of any young employees, no matter their profession, that could step away from 2 months of work without any repercussions financially or economically. So there's certainly an element of this is our job. We've worked our entire careers to build this ability to tour in America and to have a fan base that's dedicated, and it is our income and it's our career. So that's definitely one element. But of course, we love Canada. We want to be in the moment with all of our Canadian fans and our family. But I think going down there and just putting a face to a name, we love America, we love Canada, we have family there, we have, we're just people who are musicians, and somehow this rhetoric has really gotten out of hand. And I think we just need to take a step back, and hopefully through music and through us presenting our stories and our family connection to this music, that can sort of be a refreshing reset or a reminder to everyone that we're all just people at the end of the day, and we've been met with so much love and kindness consistently, and I don't see any reason that should change.
All right. Well, Cassie and Maggie MacDonald, thank you for your time. We do appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, Amy.